Well, when last we left the Wanders of Cinnithel, they had just reported back to the town and said an imminent attack was coming. So there was quickly arranged an order of battle, and the Wanders of our party were assigned to protect the entrance of the town from the encroaching orc horde. And then they waited. Let's roll it. So preparations were done by the end of the afternoon, right around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, that sort of time. The party was there waiting by the entry road into the town. They had taken up positions along the ridge, along with a lot of militia from the town. Some of them had bows, some didn't. Signal fires were lit just to give some illumination in the town because not everybody there was a demi-human, so some folks couldn't see in the dark. And then the party watched as that other group of NPC wanderers went wandering down the road, saying they were there to keep tabs on the encroaching army and to see if they were indeed coming to attack Cinnithel. And that's where the party waited. And they waited there for several hours, in fact, until it began to just about get to dusk. And the party of the NPC wanderers came rushing back into the town. They looked like they had been harried a little bit in battle, but not too beat up. And they said, "Oh yes, they are definitely coming. Get ready. We're going to take our position guarding the sanctuary. You stay here and make sure they don't get let in." And that's what the party did. They waited there until darkness hit. And there they were, fires lit, trying to offer some illumination to the approach of these encroaching enemies. And they waited to see what would happen. Noises began to ring out in the town as other areas began to come under attack. And then the party saw them. An encroaching troop of orcs, some smaller, some a little larger, were on their way up the road to come directly at them. And the battle was joined. Now, aside from just the party members that we've met so far involved in this battle, they were joined by another wanderer by the name of Freya Freewill, who was an elven thief. A little bit of an acerbic personality, tends to look at the religious aspects of the Restoration's work kind of like offhandedly, like I'm all about making new lands, but don't talk to me about all this stuff. But she's involved in the work of the Restoration. She's dedicated to it, and she does not want these folks coming to the town. So she's going to join the party on that road coming into Cinnithel to try to keep the orcs out. This is a character that was rolled up by one of our players who was unable to be there that night, but there was enough coming that I really needed another person there with some skill to be able to fight off the horde. And I would do my best not to get the player character killed while the player wasn't there. Just good DMing etiquette at that point. So a wave came crashing down, and there were some folks who were down at the bottom of the ridge who were there to engage in melee attacks when the orcs got close enough. And a lot of them just really fell. They're not highly trained and highly skilled warriors. They get a swing in or two. Some of them actually do manage to connect. I was rather impressed with the Cinnithel militia at this part of the battle, but a lot of them just get kind of cut down. It's the ones who are up on the ridge with bows who are doing the most damage. They are holding off this group of orcs as best they possibly can and are doing a relatively good job. Now, Avenwen has this problem, which we talked about last week. He's burned both his spells and has not had a time enough to get a long enough rest and the hours that he needed to rememorize the spells, so he's got a scroll that he obtained from his mentor here in the town that has 2 magic missile spells on it, and he's trying to hold them in reserve. I don't know when I'm going to need this, so I'm not going to blow it now. And the battle gets joined. Pepper runs out. She's beginning to get into melee with folks because she gets caught out a little bit too far out in the open, and Ingva rushes to the rescue and starts swinging her mace around, trying to beat back this attack. The first assault does indeed get pushed back. Folks run away, but then another one comes from a slightly different angle, rushing out of the darkness. And it's at this point that Yngve and company begin to hear the sounds of battle coming from Vendor's smithy and from her cousin Leski's mill. This is the industrial area of the town that's kind of off the ridge a little bit. Not really the best defensive posture, but they weren't expecting to fight a war. What can I say? And so Yngve's a little worried about her cousin at this point. She doesn't know what's going to happen, but she's got a job. I'm staying here. I have to protect this road. No one can get in. And the second wave comes in, and it's larger. There's more of those larger style orcs who really do a huge blow. More of them have bows, and they're starting to shoot the folks that are up on the ridge, and more defenders fall. It's at this point that Avenwen decides, nope, I'm reading one of the magic missiles, and he pulls out the magic missile spell and actually shoots one off and knocks down one of the larger orcs. They can't maintain their assault, and they begin to get pushed back. But Yngve's been seriously hurt, and Pepper has been wounded. And Avenwen is up on the ridge, and he's doing okay, but man, they're not sure if they're going to be able to hold again, because most of the militia folks who are with them at that point, they've all died. I think out of 8, they had 2 left by the time the second assault got done. This was a rough battle. And it's at that point that they hear a voice of the lieutenant of the militia come down and say, listen, you have to go. And they looked up the road and they saw that there was a troop of militia coming down the road to relieve them. And he looked at Avenwen and he said, the sanctuary is under assault. You have to get there now. Apparently, the other group of Wanders didn't have such a successful time defending the sanctuary, and now it was in danger. And so off the group went, and they ran through the town, only much to their dismay, there have been orcs that have penetrated into the town. They turn a corner. There's 3 of them there, and they swing, and they have 2 rounds of melee with that. Now, these orcs didn't have a whole lot of hit points. I really only gave them 1 each. They're just there to be a little bit of a speed bump, to enhance that sense that there's danger going on. And so that's what they do. They engage with these orcs as they come around the corner. They're going, oh, where are the rest of them? And they run further up the street, and they're about to turn down the lane that goes to the sanctuary, and the door to one of the houses kicks open, and an orc comes tumbling out, and 2 more come rushing out of the darkness for it. And that elven maid, who is from the Menoi elves who had come to join the restoration, unleashes a spell on one of them and incapacitates them. Aravan Vanfield has displayed that she is indeed a wizard of some skill. Like, she's not just a naive young girl who came to help out with this romantic endeavor. She looks down at the orcs and sneers and says, I'll take care of these. Get to where you need to be. And the group just runs to the sanctuary. Coming up the lane, they approach the entry to the sanctuary, and they are shocked to see Mayor Cooley lying on the ground, bleeding profusely, barely able to keep her head up, and next to her is Stonefest Clenhart, the cleric from that NPC group of Wanders. He's also severely wounded, but they seem to be just hanging on. They just don't have strength to stand up right at the moment. And Cinnithel Cooley looks at the party and says, you must get in there and stop them. They're trying to destroy the embers. Yngve rushes in, heedless of all danger. This is her duty. She is a cleric inside the restoration. She is a servant of the dreamer. She can't allow this to happen. She rushes into the foyer of the sanctuary, and she gets met with these dwarf-like creatures. They're not dwarves like her people, but they seem to come from the same type of stock. And in this brief moment, she recognizes them out of the stories. These were the dwarves who joined the ranks of the sleeper. And just as she's about to enter the main part of the sanctuary, one steps forward and takes a swipe, and she is gravely injured. And that, because unfortunately we had an internet outage with one of our party members at that exact moment, is where we're going to stop the story for today. Next week we'll join in the Battle of the Sanctuary and how these players actually managed to save the embers of the Dreamfire, and what were the ramifications of this battle going to be. Until then, happy playing, everyone.